Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through complex source materials to basically pull out the core frameworks for you, give you that shortcut to getting informed. Today we're tackling something, well, pretty intense. It's a deep dive into excerpts from a 1975 address by Reverend Sun Young Moon called Cain-Abel Relationships.
Yeah, and this isn't just theory. It reads like a high-stakes operating manual.
Right.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to really unpack this specific framework here. It's used to interpret, well, everything world history, your spiritual status, practical strategy.
And it all hinges on Cain and Abel.
All of it. That relationship is key.
And we need to be crystal clear on that division from the get-go, because in this view, there's really no middle ground, is there?
None at all. Cain is definitively on Satan's side, period. And Abel is on God's side, standing where Adam was before the fall. It's a completely divided reality.
A stark dichotomy.
Absolutely. And the starting point is, well, man fell. He listened to Satan, so he can't just climb back up on his own. God has to step in.
God initiates restoration.
Yes, but here's the kicker, the immediate weight on the individual. The source talks about a rope of salvation God offers.
Right.
But no matter how hard God tries to pull you up, that rope, its strength is only equal to your power of faith.
Wow. That's a huge burden. It makes salvation entirely conditional on, well, on you.
It is. It's intensely practical. The source is clear. You have to struggle. You have to cling to that ladder.
Yeah.
And your absolute faith, shown through obedience, through sacrifice, is the only thing that determines the rope's strength.
So if your faith wavers,
The rope snaps. You fall. Back into the satanic world, it sets a really high bar right from the start.
Okay, let's unpack the cosmic architecture behind this struggle then. What was the ideal supposed to look like before the fall?
Right, the ideal model, think of it as a kind of ideal trinity. You've got God at the top,
Naturally.
then Adam, who represents perfected man, the Messiah figure, and then the archangel acting as a sort of cooperating consultant. That was the blueprint.
Simple enough. But then the fall happens, and this blueprint gets corrupted, mirrored.
Mirrored is a good way to put it. You get this dark, fallen counterpart structure.
Yeah.
Satan basically takes God's position.
Right at the top?
Fallen man is now in Adam's spot. And then you have evil spirits defined as people who did bad things on earth. They take the archangel's place.
So the whole spiritual cosmos is split. Two warring camps, each with its own hierarchy.
Exactly. Which means God can't just send the Messiah, the perfected Adam figure, straight away. There needs to be prep work.
Preparation, like sending someone in that archangel role first.
Precisely. Someone to, as the source puts it, indemnify sin, to sort of pay the penalty, make restitution for the fall.
And what does that involve practically, this indemnification?
It means this figure, along with good spirits, has to actively fight against sinful people on earth. It's about clearing the ground, spiritually speaking, a necessary cleanup job, often involving conflict.
And this cleanup involves cooperation too, right? Good spirits helping good people.
Yes, good spirits, like angels, are described as working with good people, trying to elevate them, push them up that ladder, get them ready to actually receive the Messiah.
And this isn't just individual, it's scaled up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. God's working from the top down, the archangel figure from the bottom up, and they cooperate. It happens at the individual level, the family, tribe, nation. The goal is the whole world, bringing everything back to how it should have been.
But the big hurdle, the source says, is fallen human nature itself.
Right. We're naturally more apt to go towards the satanic world after the fall. So the individual standing there in fallen Adam's place has this huge internal fight just to connect with God and the good spirits.
Which leads us straight into what's required from the individual for this restoration to even begin.
It's radical.
It really is.
How radical? The source says you have to start completely alone before God, like Adam before the fall, having no family or nation in the real sense. What does that mean?
It means a total break, a revolutionary idea. The doctrine states point blank, God cannot recognize or approve your current family, or your clan, your tribe, your nation.
Why not?
Because they all exist within the satanic world. So if you want to get back to that original state, that pre-fall status, you have to be spiritually willing and able to just dissolve all those ties.
Dissolve all earthly relationships. That's huge. The source even brings up Jesus's words here, doesn't it?
It does. Things like let the dead bury their own dead, or loving Jesus more than your parents, your spouse.
Which sound incredibly harsh out of context.
But the source argues you only really get why Jesus said those things when you understand the principle, this whole framework of fall and restoration. It's about achieving total spiritual isolation as your starting point.
So what's the price tag on this kind of absolute faith? How deep does the commitment go?
You need unshakable subjectivity just to start, and you have to be ready for extreme persecution. The text is graphic. It asks, would your faith hold if?
If your arms were torn off, eyes plucked out.
Yes. Your nose is cut off, your head is cut off. It literally says the condition for heaven is being ready to lose your life.
That's not metaphorical, that's stark. So how does someone survive that kind of opposition? Is there like a spiritual safe zone?
There is a boundary line, yes. The teaching is that Satan's influence has a limit. He can't dominate you above the spiritual level where he first tempted Adam.
Okay.
So if you can push yourself through that absolute faith to reach this able position, standing alone before God, totally committed at some states, then the angels, God's side, can push back Satan's power. You become, in a sense, untouchable at that level.
But staying in that pure able position sounds incredibly difficult. And the roles themselves, Cain and Abel, they aren't fixed, are they?
Not at all. Extremely fluid. Depends entirely on the context. Like inside the movement, the newer person, the younger brother, spiritually, is often seen as Abel.
And the older member, the firstborn.
They're in the Cain position.
Yeah.
And there's a warning there. The older ones are more likely to fall into Cain's shoes through arrogance. Humility is key to staying able.
And this applies externally, too, between groups.
Yep. Established Christianity, being older, the firstborn in that sense, is positioned as Cain in this framework.
And the unification movement, being new,
is positioned as Abel, the newly born.
Okay, so if you achieve this able standing, what's your mission? Is it to defeat Cain?
Not defeat, exactly. It's to restore Cain. Abel actually needs Cain to fulfill the mission. Cain is essential.
How does that work? What's the strategy?
It's kind of counterintuitive. You look for the most vicious one in any situation, the strongest example of that satanic influence.
And you target them, the most vicious. Why?
Because if you can win that person over, restore them, then everyone under their influence, the less vicious ones, they'll naturally follow. It's about tackling the root.
Okay, and how do you fight this battle? With arguments? Protests?
No, completely the opposite. The source says, remember how Satan tempted Eve?
With subtlety.
With smiles and tenderness, it says, not aggression. So Abel has to use the same method. Tenderness, sweetness, smiles, to warm Cain's blood, basically.
So, happiness is the weapon.
Pretty much. Abel needs to be just pure goodness, inside and out. And crucially, possess twice the happiness of evil people. Their happiness is fleeting, external. Abel's happiness comes from deep hope, from the principle. That's the secret weapon.
And once you draw someone in with this goodness, what then?
Then you hold on tight. The source says Abel must not let them go, even if you must bite him.
Bite him? Seriously?
It emphasizes the absolute responsibility. Letting a new person drift away causes a spiritual injury that's almost impossible to heal. So you have to raise them quickly, make them a solid member who can stand on their own against opposition.
Which requires a certain kind of leadership from Abel, I imagine?
Oh, absolutely. The highest level of humility. Sacrifice. A leader has to be ready to give 10 and get maybe 1 back, or even nothing, like God, who just keeps giving love.
Serving, not ordering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You lead by example, through self-denial. That's how you solidify your own position as Abel, reflecting God's nature.
And this whole Cain-Abel structure, it's not just personal or within the group. The source applies it globally, right? To politics, nations, especially in that 1975 context.
It does. And here, it's important we just report what the source says, maintaining impartiality. From the perspective of this 1975 address, the global conflict was framed very clearly.
How so?
Externally, the democratic world was positioned as Abel, the communist world as Cain.
And was one seen as the main enemy?
Oh, explicitly.
Okay.
Communism is called the ultimate target, the strongest enemy of God in that text. And it even applied this internally in the U.S.
The ruling party versus the opposition.
Yes. At that time, the Republicans were in power, so they were cast as Abel. The opposition, Cain.
But then the source criticizes democratic politics itself, doesn't it? Saying the constant power shifts are no development in God's sight.
Right. Because for real spiritual progress, according to this view, the Abel side needs to stay in charge, establish a stable foundation. If it keeps flipping back and forth, you never secure the ground needed for restoration.
Which leads to a pretty pointed critique of Christianity at the time.
It does. The mandate given is that Christianity must unite manipulate both parties, and essentially rule the rulers to save the nation.
That's a bold claim. Manipulate both parties.
That's the language used.
Yeah.
The argument is, if Christians can't establish this unified, able position over the government, the nation will decline because you need that stability for restoration to work.
But the address then says established Christianity is failing, that it's being dominated by communism, even becoming pro-communist.
Yeah, there's a sense of crisis there, which leads God, the source says, to look for a new group, a new bud of life.
Identified as the Unification Church.
Correct. Positioned as the group meant to secure that crucial able base in America, which could then influence other nations.
And this global plan is tied to specific numbers, ceremonies. They seem important. The 1800 couples marriage ceremony, for instance.
Very symbolic. The number 6 is seen as Satan's number, tied to the fall. Multiplying that by 3, representing 3 stages of indemnity or restoration, gives you 18. So 1,800 couples, using 18, symbolizes overcoming and ending the satanic world through these blessed families. These numbers aren't arbitrary. They're seen as spiritual conditions.
What about sending members to 120 nations? Why 120?
That number echoes the 120 disciples gathered after Jesus' resurrection. It represents establishing a foundational core. So reaching 120 nations is about creating a global spiritual foundation, mimicking that original Christian starting point, but on a worldwide scale for this new able mission.
It all comes back to faith in the end, doesn't it? That final call to action.
Absolutely. If your faith in the leader, the father figure, weighs 10,000, you win 10,000. It connects everything. You need your cane to restore. The father needs his cane. And the listener, you, are responsible for protecting your able, the father figure.
So wrapping this up, the core takeaway is this incredibly comprehensive doctrine. It views all conflict, spiritual, political, personal, through this constant Cain-Abel struggle. And it demands absolute faith, sacrifice, and this unusual strategy of using goodness and happiness to win over the opposition.
And it came with a sense of extreme urgency. Remember, the source material claimed that if members carried out this fight faithfully in their assigned nations, the world would explode at once within 7 years' time. A dramatic, imminent endpoint was envisioned.
That sheer intensity, believing the planet's fate hangs on your individual rope of faith, it's profound.
It underpins the whole system.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. If absolute faith is the only measure, and demonstrating it requires potentially denying all earthly ties, family, nation, even self, what do you think is the deepest psychological or emotional challenge in striving for that kind of spiritual isolation? Something to mull over.